Hi, I'm Shannon, one of the librarians here at Naperville Public Library, and today we're talking about a pirate's life. So what it would have been like to have been a pirate in the Golden Age of Piracy. So we're going to look at some terminology, some famous pirates from this era, the realities of pirate life at this time, and then also some media if you're interested in pirates. And just so you know, this program is intended for an adult audience and addresses the historical realities of the pirate world. So the Golden Age of Piracy, when piracy was the most prevalent around the world, fell between the 1650s and the 1730s, and we've been romanticizing it ever since. But what was it really like to be a pirate? If your vision of piracy comes from Captain Jack Sparrow, keep watching to learn more about the history of piracy. So, okay, the first thing we're going to look at is buccaneers, corsairs, privateers. What's the difference? So a few different terminology definitions for you here. First of all, piracy overall itself means like stealing and or attacking from a ship at sea upon another ship or a coastal area. And then a pirate would be a person committing these acts. Now, a privateer is an armed ship owned and officered by private individuals holding a government commission and authorized for use in war or the capturing of merchant ships. So basically a pirate with papers. Now, a buccaneer comes from the French word boucanier, which means hunters of wild bulls or cows in Tortuga and Hispaniola, who cooked their meat on a boucan to make jerked meat. And buccaneers were privateers specific to the Caribbean Sea in the 17th and 18th centuries, and the buccaneering period of the Golden Age of Piracy falls between 1650 and 1680. And then a corsair is a pirate on the Mediterranean coast in the 17th century. Now, over time, we have come to use most of these terms kind of interchangeably, but they do have specific meanings historically. So what were pirates seeking? Well, popular culture tells us gold, or general riches, as in the song Dead Man's Chest or The Derelict from Robert Louis Stevenson's classic pirate novel Treasure Island. There was chest on chest full of Spanish gold with a ton of plate in the middle hold. Plate was the old term for solid silver, so they're talking about like bars of silver here. But anything of value was worth pillaging, including the taking of other ships. And a pirate who didn't spend all of his plunder might come away with gold or pearl jewelry or classier accessories such as silver buttons, buckles, or a sword hilt. And rings would not be a desirable accessory because they could catch in the rigging and break a finger. So let's look at a few famous historical pirates from this period. So the first one we'll look at is Blackbeard, known as Edward Teach, although his real name was likely Edward Drummond, and he earned his nickname for his facial hair, which he divided into tails and tied with colored ribbons. And he was a privateer in Jamaica during the War of Spanish Succession, and then moved to the Bahamas, where he was crewman for pirate Captain Benjamin Hornigold. And he learned quickly under Hornigold's tutelage, and then they sacked many ships together, and all the while Teach's bloodthirsty reputation grew. And when Hornigold retired, he gave Teach the ship that would become known as the Queen Anne's Revenge. He captured vessels in the Caribbean and then moved to the Carolinas, and in 1718 he set upon Charlestown, now Charleston, and captured 8 ships. Attacking in their harbor spread his fame. After clashing with another pirate, Teach accepted a pardon from Governor Eden and tried to live a normal life, but soon became a privateer. And then Governor Spotswood was fed up with all the piracy and set Lieutenant Robert Maynard to apprehend Teach. A battle ultimately ensued, including cannon fire and Maynard and Teach battling with flintlocks and swords. Teach was wounded in the neck and died from the injury, and his head was hung from the mast of the ship as a warning to others. And then we have Calico Jack Rackham. Captain John Rackham, known as Calico Jack for his love of colorful clothing, was a quartermaster on Charles Vane's ship the Ranger in 1718, but branded Vane a coward when he wouldn't take on a man of war. Most of the crew sided with Rackham, making him the new captain. Rackham began an affair with a married woman who became part of the crew, and more on that in a moment. In 1720, the governor of the Bahamas issued a proclamation that declared Rackham and the crew pirates, so pirate hunters began to seek them. Jonathan Barnett led the attack on Rackham's ship. He and the crew were tried and convicted of piracy and sentenced to be hanged. Calico Jack was hanged November 18th, 1720, and his body gibbeted at a place now known as Rackham's Cay. And then we have Anne Bonny. Anne was born in Kinsale, County Cork, Ireland, about 1698, the product of her attorney father's affair with a housemaid. Her father grew fond of her and dressed her as a boy to avoid scandal, introducing her as the child of relatives, and eventually the family moved to South Carolina, where fiery Anne allegedly murdered a servant. She was disowned by her father when she married a poor sailor named James Bonny, and the couple moved to New Providence in the Bahamas, where Anne caroused with pirates and took up with Calico Jack Rackham, leaving her husband to join Rackham's crew. Anne generally lived as a woman, as Rackham's lover and helper, but during attacks on other ships dressed as a man. Like Anne, Mary Read was also an illegitimate child and was also dressed as a boy to try to fool family members as a child. But Mary continued dressing as a boy to make ends meet and get work as a servant. As a young teen, she was a powder monkey on a British man of war, so running gunpowder to the guns, and later served in the Army of Flanders, eventually marrying a soldier who learned her secret. When her husband died, she resumed living as a man, sailing in the West Indies, where she was captured by Calico Jack and his company. And Mary was described as ruthless and aggressive, swearing as much as any male sailor. In 1720, when pirate hunter Captain Jonathan Barnett overtook Rackham's ship, Mary Read and Anne Bonny led the fight against the boarding party. They were captured, but both claimed to be pregnant and received stays of execution. Mary died in prison, but Anne was released, likely due to the influence of her father. And just a word about women at sea. Women were on board ships not just as pirates, but also as sailors, whalers, cooks, laundresses, prostitutes, and servants. Some pirates banned women from their ships, such as Blackbeard, who perceived them as a, quote, liability, but likely was just something out of his comfort zone. So now let's take a look at pirate gear. Well, the first thing would be a ship. So if you're trying to be swift and sneaky, smaller is better, and pirates and privateers preferred small, fast ships, often redesigning them to suit their own needs. For example, making them more streamlined and providing better protection for the crew. An ideal pirate ship was 30 to 50 tons, and the Caribbean's waters are shallow, so huge ships like galleons, which weigh up to 1,000 tons, and naval men of war were not desirable. Any big ships that were captured would be either sold off, destroyed, or set adrift. And then pirate flags here, they gave the message from afar what a pirate crew stood for. Different symbols sent different messages, and pirates wanted to send an intimidating message, so many of the symbols were rather grim. The skull and crossbones meant death. The hourglass meant your time is running out. Weapons meant that the pirates were looking for a fight. A bleeding heart meant that you were in for a slow and painful death if you crossed these pirates. The horned skeleton meant the devil. And then a red pirate flag, a red background, meant that the pirates will show no mercy. And then a look at weapons that would have been used by pirates. The goal for pirates would be to take a ship with as little damage as possible to either the ship or the cargo, since both were valuable. Rich passengers could be taken captive for ransom as well. So the weapons that would be used, muskets were single-shot rifles, and pirates often sawed off the stock for maneuverability. A cutlass was a short, curved sword with a wide, thick blade. A dagger was a straight blade used to thrust and puncture. A dirk is a small throwing knife. An axe would be used to cut ropes or break through wood. A grapnel or grapple, it's like a grappling hook, would be thrown and then caught onto another ship, and a pirate could then climb a rope attached to it and board the ship. And then a grenade would have been made of clay, glass, or wood and filled with gunpowder and
bits that could become shrapnel, so bits of glass or iron, and then it would be thrown up onto the deck of the other ship before boarding.
So now we're going to debunk the look of a pirate here. Our image of a pirate in a laced shirt and a coat of rich fabric and a tri-cornered hat does not apply to the average pirate or seaman, perhaps just a gentleman privateer. Hats might be cocked, broad-brimmed Spanish style, or a Monmouth hat, which is like a knit cap. Long hair would not have been worn loose, as it would be dangerous, could affect your vision, or could get caught in the ropes. So this fellow here on the right really need to tie his hair back. Long hair would have been either worn clubbed or worn in a queue. And then cloth handkerchiefs or head wraps could be used to protect the head from sun, sweat, and again to tie the hair back. Shirts were often made of coarse linen, and breeches were wide and worn either open or closed at the knee. And shoes of leather or pigskin could be worn, but pirates were often barefoot to more nimbly climb the rigging. And high-topped boots that we think of as pirate boots would only be worn for riding horses. And a pirate might have a tattoo called a gunpowder spot, since it was created by using crushed gunpowder in place of ink.
And now a word on pirate pets. It wouldn't be uncommon to see a pirate with a parrot or a monkey, since these exotic pets could be picked up in the lands where pirates and privateers traveled. Even if they didn't plan to keep the animal as their own pet for long, it could be a valuable commodity, since monkeys and exotic birds were novel pets in high society and could command a handsome price on shore. So now let's talk about food, drink, and health in the pirate world. So looking at the pirate diet, pirates in general were not a healthy lot. Wooden ships were dirty, damp, and full of rats and insects. Foods that we would consider staples, like flour and dried beans, could be infested with weevils or mold in a damp ship's hold, so they wouldn't keep for long. Pirates ate beef, pork, and fish preserved with salt. In leaner times, they would turn to eating the rats that infested the ships. Yummy, yummy. Meats were brined in wooden barrels, and the salted fat created by this process was used all over the ship for many purposes, from cooking to tanning leather to making candles. And without fresh fruit and vegetables, many pirates lacked proper nutrition and developed scurvy from the lack of vitamin C. In 1795, the British Royal Navy began carrying citrus juice to ward off scurvy. Rum is the drink we most associate with pirates, and it would indeed have been drunk by everyone in the Caribbean, not only because it was cheap, but because it was safe. Many diseases were carried in water. There were many terms for rum, including Kill Devil, Barbados water, and Nelson's blood, as in the song A Drop of Nelson's Blood, Nelson being Admiral Horatio Nelson of the British Royal Navy. Grog was a mixture of rum and water, sometimes with lemon or lime mixed in. When on shore, pirates might visit taverns or punch houses for fancier drinks. Rumfustian was a hot drink blended from raw eggs, sugar, sherry, beer, and gin. Rumbullion was a stronger mix that was the demon offspring of Rumfustian. And punch was a mix of distilled alcohol, tea, juices, spices, sugar, and lime juice. And then on to some health issues. Hygiene, by our modern definition, didn't exist in the Golden Age of Piracy, especially on a rat-infested boat. Other pests also could include roaches and lice. No one washed their hands before eating, and disease spread quickly in the confined space of a ship. Surgeons used leeches to, quote, cleanse the blood, and the toxic chemical mercury was used to treat syphilis, which was a frequent ailment among pirates. Due to their being out in the elements, conditions such as sunburn, heat stroke, and hypothermia were also common issues for pirates. And wounds, cuts, and bruises sustained from work around the ship would also be common.
So what about the image of the peg-legged pirate? Well, this is not a fictional creation. Many historical pirates lost limbs in battle, including Robert Dangerfield, Israel Phillips, and Captain Scrim in the Battle of the HMS Swallow. In the case of Phillips, there was no surgeon on board to perform the amputation, so the ship's carpenter had to step in, and he did survive. Since the loss of a leg would prevent a pirate from climbing the rigging of a ship, those who had lost limbs often became the ship's cook. It was still a necessary role, but one that did not require so much physical labor. And now let's take a look at sea shanties. There has recently been a resurgence in interest in sea shanties on TikTok and other social media, with television host Stephen Colbert declaring 2021 the year of the sea shanty. With this came the question, would pirates and sailors have actually sung sea shanties? And the answer is yes. Sea shanties were work songs that evolved to both relieve the monotony of tedious work and to keep everyone working in the same rhythm or pace while doing tasks like hauling sails, etc. They have a call and response form where the lead singer or shantyman sings the solo and the crew sings the chorus in response. There's different types of sea shanties, and they include short haul shanties, which are requiring quick pulls over a short time, and one example is Holloway Joe. Long haul shanties, which are also known as long drag or halyard shanties, for long, heavy periods of labor, for example, Whiskey Johnny or Blow the Man Down, and then capstan or windlass shanties for long, repetitive tasks that need a sustained rhythm. And other examples of those are Santillano, the Drop of Nelson's Blood, which I just mentioned, it's also known as Roll the Old Chariot Along, and then South Australia, which was actually covered in the late 80s by the punk band The Pogues. And then there's also forecastle, which are also known as forecastle, I can barely pronounce that word, and also forbidders songs. And these were sung in the evening in the crew quarters for entertainment when the work was done. And these ranged from kind of ballads to songs about romance, songs addressing battles, and then humorous songs. Songs like All for Me Grog and Maggie May. And then there's also another version of sea songs called whaling songs that record the difficult lives of sailors who fished for whales. For example, the Bonnie Ship the Diamond, the Wellerman, and Old Maui. Now, as with most folk music, if you listen to many versions of sea shanties, that is, sung by different artists, you will hear many iterations of a given song. And this would have been the case on ships as well. A shantyman might pick up a song somewhere and then he might add a verse or alter the lyrics or whatnot. Since the average age of pirates and sailors was the mid-20s, the forecastle songs tended to be about topics that young men enjoyed in their free time, namely partying. When sea shanties and sea songs were being documented in the 19th century, archivists sometimes altered the wording, for example, changing less savory words for women to fair maidens, etc. On one hand, this makes for a more palatable and politically correct song to our modern ear. On the other hand, it isn't historically accurate. Still wanting more on pirates? Okay, here we go. So here's a list of books in our collection on pirates, if you're wanting more. First of all, nonfiction. We've got Under the Black Flag by David Cordingly and The Golden Age of Piracy by Bennerson Little. And both of these address realities of the pirate life. Enemy of All Mankind by Stephen Johnson. This is about the pirate Henry Every and the first global manhunt. A Brief History of Pirates and Buccaneers from Sir Francis Drake to Captain Jack by Tom Bowling, kind of self-explanatory title there. Pirates, A New History from Vikings to Somali Raiders by Peter Lair. This covers a more broad time period than just the Golden Age of Piracy, so if you're kind of wanting a broader expanse of time, this one might be the one for you. The Illustrated Pirate Diaries. This was the illustrated edition of a 1678 diary of a buccaneer who sailed under Captain Henry Morgan. And then Piratology by Dugald Steer. This has lots of graphics and 3D elements in it, and it blends kind of fiction and nonfiction because it pulls from both Robert Louis Stevenson, and nonfiction information about pirates. And then some fiction books here. The Big Book of Swashbuckling Adventure. This is short stories about pirates from classic authors. Hook's Tale, being the account of an unjustly villainized pirate written by himself. This one, if you liked Peter Pan and you felt like maybe Captain Hook got the bad end of it, rather like Wicked and some of these other stories that have tried to see the point of view of the bad guy, this one is like that, where you're getting Captain Hook's point of view. The Spider John Mystery Series by Steve Goebel. This is mystery novels set aboard the vengeful, lawless world of a pirate ship. And then finally, something a little bit different, Cinnamon and Gunpowder by Eli Brown. A famous chef is captured by a mad female pirate, and his life will only be spared if every Sunday he can create a fantastic meal for her. So this kind of takes the Scheherazade story of the Arabian Nights and turns it into a pirate tale, something a little bit different. And now for Pirates on Film. Most people interested in pirates are probably already familiar with the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise by now. But have you seen? We've got Captain Blood, which is a classic pirate movie starring Errol Flynn and Olivia de Havilland. And there she is there on the right in Captain Blood. The Black Pirate, which was another classic from 1926, starring Douglas Fairbanks, and it was the first grand-scale epic film shot entirely in Technicolor. Blackbeard was a mini-series about Edward Teach. Crossbones was a television series also about Blackbeard and starring John Malkovich. Black Sails was a television series written as a prequel to Treasure Island. And then just for fun, I threw in Muppet Treasure Island, which stars Muppets as pirates with Tim Curry as Long John Silver. And we have a few nonfiction DVDs here. The Pirate Code, Real Pirates, and Real Story, Pirates of the Caribbean. So if you're looking for something a little more documentary-like, check these out. And also if you're interested in video games, Assassin's Creed Black Flag is pirate-themed and has a soundtrack full of sea shanties and sea songs. And the library owns this game for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch, and the soundtrack on CD. There are many pirate museums and festivals around the world, including St. Augustine Pirate and Treasure Museum in St. Augustine, Florida, New England Pirate Museum in Salem, Massachusetts, the Whydaw Pirate Museum in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, Pirates of Nassau in the Caribbean, Gasparilla Pirate Fest in Tampa Bay, Florida, Pirates Week in the Cayman Islands, Contraband Days in Lake Charles, Louisiana, Fort Myers Beach Pirate Festival in Florida, Pirate Invasion in Beaufort, North Carolina, Blackbeard Pirate Festival in Hampton, Virginia, Pirates in Paradise Festival in Key West, Florida, and you'll also find pirates and sea shanties aplenty at most Renaissance festivals, which take place around the country, generally in spring and summer. And the closest one to Naperville is the Bristol Renaissance Fair in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And use the library's travel guide collection to help you plan your trip. Want to learn to talk like a pirate before you head to one of these festivals? There's a database for that. Mango Languages teaches 70 different languages, including pirate. It can be found in our list of databases on our website and can be used remotely by logging in with your NPL card number and your PIN number. And thank you for watching. Hope you've learned something interesting and new about pirates. Hope we'll see you again soon at the library, and bye-bye for now.